So we're in chapter 5, text 22. Again, it's a popular verse. Yehi samsparshaja bhoga dukha yonaya evate. So dukha yona, as in where is the root or the womb of dukha? Krishna is defining it that, where does all our problems, dukha, come from? Adi antavanta konteya na teshu ramate buddha. That an intelligent person does not partake in the source of misery, right? Dukha yonaya, source of misery, which are due to contact with material senses. So, source of misery is contact with material senses. Just like when milk comes in contact with a souring agent like tamarind or, let's say, uh, lime juice, there is a chemical reaction and the milk becomes curdled, right? It becomes paneer. So similarly, our beginning of misery, a source of misery, is coming in contact with matter. But then you're going to tell me we have a material body. How can we not come in contact with matter? Right. And that's, we are in this situation. But Krishna gives the other part. O son of Kunti, such pleasures have a beginning and end. So any material pleasure has a beginning and end. Now you're going to be like, of course, why are you telling me that? That means another way of saying it's temporary, right? Something that has a beginning and an end is temporary. And something that doesn't have a beginning, doesn't have an end is eternal. That's who we are as soul, as Atma. We are eternally living, right? Soul never is born, soul never dies. So there's another way of Krishna saying happiness that is temporary comes from material happiness, right? That has a beginning and an end. And so the wise man does not delight in them. The wise person, or in this case, spiritually wise person with spiritual wisdom, does not delight in them because, okay, yeah, it's something that's temporary happiness, fine, that's nice, but there is something more important. So it doesn't mean like you don't smile at jokes or comedy, you don't have a sense of humor. That's not what it's being talked about. But what it means is basically you don't give it that much weightage, things that come from material sense perception, because it's temporary. It has a expiry date on it, right? If you were to get a degree, when you get a college degree, it is for the rest of your life. You're a graduate or you're a PhD or whatever that might be. You're certified for the rest of your life. Now if you were to know that the validity is for 6 months, certain colleges, if you take a degree there, the validity is for 6 months or 1 year, you wouldn't do that because it's temporary. You want a degree that stays with you for the rest of your life. So in the next verse, Krishna is saying that before giving up this body, this present body, if one is able to tolerate the urges of the material senses and check the force of desire and anger, he is well situated and is happy in this world. So the source of misery is coming from contact with material senses. And if you're able to tolerate the urges of the senses and check the force of desire and anger, right? Kamesha Krodesha. Many places Krishna says Kamesha Krodesha, desire and anger. He is well situated in this and is happy in this world. That's not easy to do. But that's the solution. That controlling the urges of the material senses. The material senses want material sense gratification, material sense pleasure, and tolerating those urges, right? So it's, today is Ekadashi, for example. And today, more those of us who are practicing devotees, we don't eat food that has grains and beans in them. So no dal, no rice, no chapati, things like that. Now, the urge might be there. Oh, I want to have biryani. But hey, today is Ekadashi. We learn to tolerate that urge and control. Today is not the day to have rice or chapati or dal and beans and pulses, right? So That's why does Ekadashi days exist? Why does all these various sense control mechanisms exist? It's to give us some practice run, that on certain days we practice it, so that we train the mind to learn to say no to the mind. The mind is saying, I want to have this, I want to do this when I want it, I want this when I want this. Just like a child, I want that balloon, I want it now. I will not listen to you unless you give me that balloon. I will start crying. As an adult, we learn, you know what? 95% of the times things won't go as I planned exactly, but it will somehow work out somewhere. And sometimes, 75% of the time, it won't work out at all, right? And that's okay. Part of being an adult, part of accepting life. You worked very hard for that job or that promotion, didn't work out. Happens, right? Happens all the time. But as adults, we don't throw a tantrum and start crying. But guess what? The mind never grows up. The mind is always throwing a tantrum. Oh, I want this now or else, and we are forced to, okay, eat this, do this, talk this, whatnot. Things we know we shouldn't be doing, we end up doing because the mind is forcing us. And so that's why we have certain controls. We learn to control our senses through the mantra meditation process. I'm chanting right now. I'm not going to do anything else. I am, Ekadashi days, so I'm going to not eat certain food. Or even just normal days, we don't drink, we don't eat onion, garlic, we don't eat this and that. We don't indulge in gambling, we don't indulge in lying. So constantly the mind is saying, just do this, and you're saying, no, I have a higher reason why not to act in such a way. So as we kind of put ourselves in a structure, we get used to that structure, used to saying no to the mind, right? And saying yes to the wisdom of Bhagavad Gita. So that's a very important aspect. So that's what Krishna is saying in text 23, that before giving up the present body, so you have ample time, I hope, for most of us, hopefully. If one is able to tolerate the urges of the material senses and check the force of desire and anger, he is well situated and is happy in this world. So the next verse, Krishna is saying, yo nataha sukho natar aramas tathantar jyotir evaya sa yogi brahma nirvanam brahma bhuto digachati. One whose happiness is within, who is active and rejoices within, and whose aim is inward, is actually the perfect mystic. He is liberated in the Supreme, and ultimately he attains the Supreme. So that's the beauty of being a yogi, or being a bhakti yogi, or being a devotee. Always there's going to be problems. Today there's corona, and before that there was demonetization, financial crunch. Before that there was something and something and something. There's always something's going to be there. And if one chooses to be upset, all one needs to do is watch the news. Plenty of reasons to be upset, plenty of reasons to be angry, plenty of reasons to think, what am I doing in this world, right? At the same time, there are few of us, handful of us, who find happiness within, right? Regardless of what's happening outside, one's happiness is within. One chooses to find happiness from that relationship with Krishna, which is within. One chooses to be happy even in the most unhappy circumstances. Just to give you a nice example, a few decades ago in Russia, this was Cold War time, Hare Krishna devotees were propagating the Krishna consciousness movement illegally in Russia. Illegally in the sense that they had, the communist regime had put in that no religion, churches were closed, all religion was kind of shut off, right? Now the Hare Krishna devotees, they were able to give this Krishna consciousness, and they were working very hard, all kinds of ways to hide, and it's kind of like a newspaper setting. They were giving Bhagavad Gita, the whole Bhagavad Gita, in very, very small fonts, was printed on pages like newspaper. 700 verses, just imagine, on newspaper, and at the back of a car, removing the car seat, thousands and thousands of these were distributed. And then devotees were caught by the police, and they were, tortured in jail. One devotee was injected with salt water and then electrocuted, so that the electricity, uh, not only is external but it's internal, because salt water is has conductive power. Of course, that devotee died, and few devotees were killed in the process. They were tortured like anything. But there were devotees, even though they were put in a jail so that they don't pursue Krishna consciousness, they don't spread Krishna consciousness. Um, there were devotees who were taking bread, mixing it with water, and making small balls out of them, and chanting on those beads, right? Beads made out of dried bread balls, right? And they were not eating themselves, they were saving the bread, and then as the bread became a little dry, they would make small, small balls out of them, and they were putting some strings through. I don't know how they got strings, but and with four beads, right? They would chant the. So we have 108 beads in a bead. They were only having four, and they were doing that multiple times to reach 108, and then 16 rounds like that. They were chanting the holy name of Krishna. So very precarious situation, and devotees still didn't give up, right? Even now in Russia, there are some devotees in prison recently for, again, they keep harassing the Hare Krishna devotees, even though it's not the so-called communist regime, but still the Orthodox, Christian Orthodox Church in Russia really causes a lot of trouble for the Hare Krishna devotees. Keep harassing us, breaking down our microphone speaker systems when we do Harinam Sankirtan, beating up devotees, putting them behind bars, and all of that. But devotees don't give up; they keep chanting, and that's because regardless of what is happening, one cannot stop a devotee in any situation, because internally the holy name is going on. Internally, relationship with Krishna is being nurtured. Internally, a devotee can think of Krishna's pastimes and remembrance, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Vandanam, Archanam, Pada Sevanam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, Atma Nivedanam. All of these processes of the 9 stages of bhakti can all be pursued through the process of internal Krishna consciousness. It is not based on something external. One might think, oh, you need kartals, mridanga, you need to have this and that. Even if everything is taken away from us, one can still pursue Krishna consciousness internally. So this is one thing that cannot be taken away from us, and that's the beauty of Krishna consciousness, right? So that is being said, one whose happiness is within, who is active and rejoices within, and whose aim is inward, is actually the perfect mystic. He is liberated in the Supreme, and ultimately he attains the Supreme. So I like to call it throwing party within, right? It's Krishna and you, and internally you can enjoy your relationship with Krishna, and an exchange of happiness and prayers and glorification all within. It's very beautiful, actually. So Prabhupada says, unless one is able to relish happiness from within, how can one retire from the external engagement meant for deriving superficial happiness? A liberated person enjoys happiness by factual experience. He can, therefore, sit silently at any place and enjoy the activities of life from within. Such a liberated person no longer desires external material happiness. This state is called Brahma Bhuta, attaining one, attaining which one is assured of going back to Godhead, back to home. Brahma Bhuta, Prasannatma, na shochati, na kangshati. In Bhagavad Gita, only Krishna says that when one is in that liberated state, but Brahma Bhuta platform, when you're happy within, there's no shochati, there's no kangshati, no lamentation for the past mistakes, no hankering for the future and anxiety, what's going to happen in the future, right? Na shochati, na kangshati. Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma. Prasannatma, always prasanna, always happy, right? So Srila Prabhupada in the purport is saying, unless one is happy within, how can one give up self gratification? Because try staying away from your phone for a second. It's so difficult. We're so addicted to our phones, particularly to a couple of artificially intelligent apps that know exactly what we want to watch and shows us, constantly stimulating our mind. So that's the addiction. Now, internally, if we're happy, only then we can say, I don't need this. I personally went through this recently. I don't mind shamelessly sharing it with you. So there's this whole cryptocurrency thing that's happening. Everybody's making money. And I thought, why not me? Why not invest a little bit of money in crypto? Of course, I gave myself certain rules. But then before I knew, I was looking at this app constantly, looking at the prices, because at least in the stock market, it ends on weekends. It ends at 3:15 in the afternoon. But crypto, there's no end. Constantly, the prices are fluctuating and there's always opportunity for making money. And I found myself getting addicted. And Krishna was very kind. He let me win. I was making money. And then I was losing money, still losing money, pretty badly. But I decided, what? It's affecting my chanting. The fact that I'm looking at my phone so much, that means I'm addicted. And this is, I'm going almost on the verge of gambling. And this is not good. I'm an initiated devotee. I've taken vows of initiation. I cannot do this. And thank you, Krishna, for helping me lose money so that I can come back to my senses and not get carried away by this impulse of the mind. I'm a fallen soul. Feel free to judge me. But hey, I fell for it. But the kindness of Krishna is such that he reminds you that, hey, you're going in the wrong direction. You shouldn't be doing this. Come back up, right? And just before Philosophy Friday, I was chanting happily for the half an hour or so, without touching my phone, and gaining control back on the mind. That, hey, mind, no phone, no checking prices. Today is Ekadashi. It's a day of chanting. It's a day of Krishna consciousness. So that's that. So that's a very beautiful, powerful process of Krishna consciousness, a tool that's given to us. Compared to that, if you see other people, they don't have these tools. They will get easily carried away without even knowing and spend hours and hours and hours before they realize, what am I doing? But again, thanks to our teachings, our teachers, our acharyas, our disciplic succession, that there is always that reminder, knock on the head. Hey, you know what? You're not this person. You're getting carried away. And those teachings come. Krishna reminds us. And very quickly, we can come back to our senses and continue in our pursuit of Krishna consciousness. The reason for me sharing this with you is to tell you that when you deviate from the path of Krishna consciousness, don't get guilty and upset and all that. It happens to anyone. I'm saying all these big things, and it happens to me. And people that I learned from, happens to them also, right? But the point is, the maturity is coming back to your senses and coming back to the path of Krishna consciousness and pursuing that path. In Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, it is mentioned that in Krishna consciousness, for the mistakes we do, we don't have prayaschitta. In the Vedic process, if you do mistakes, so I'm sure you've heard when there's Shraddha ceremony, somebody dies, there's prayaschitta process. Like, okay, they made these mistakes so that they don't go to hell or they don't suffer in the next life. The children do prayaschitta activities to do some rituals and whatnot. So their bad karma gets somehow a little bit annihilated, nullified. But in Krishna consciousness, there is no such thing as prayaschitta. The only thing is get back up and keep going in your pursuit of Krishna consciousness towards Krishna's lotus feet. Keep walking, right? We fall, we get up, we keep going. We fall, we get up, we keep going. We try to fall less, and we keep accelerating our growth in spiritual life, right? That's the process. So it's not a hard process, it's not a judgmental process, it's not a process where God is this old bearded man who's here to judge you, you're going to hell and you're going to heaven. Not the Christian kind of idea or the Islamic idea of judgment day and you're being judged. God is not judgmental. Krishna is very merciful. Krishna is very kind. He wants us to succeed. He wants us back more than we want to go back to him. So he makes arrangements. He reminds us. He sends us mentors, teachers, gurus, shastras, sadhus, so that they can inspire us on our journey back to Godhead. Right. So Krishna provides, if as long as we have the desire to come back to him, he provides all the resources that we need to get back on the path back to Krishna. Right. I'll pause and see if there are any questions so far before we go on other verses.
Can you hear me? Yes.
I can hear you very, very slowly. Can you speak
Okay.
up?
Hold on a minute. Okay. Can you hear me now? I'm speaking
Yes.
louder.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So today is Ekadasi, and I have been following Ekadasi for a few months now. And I, what I actually try to do is I try to keep complete fast. But my parents were like forcing me to eat something, so I eat mangoes, right? So this question came into my head that what's the difference between like eating absolute nothing is complete fast and eating sattvic like fruits or something, like what is the difference?
It really depends on your ability. So, ideally speaking, one should be, the highest thing is not eating anything or eating just fruits and staying that way. What it does is it does give you some amazing powers. So, because when you have mind control, you know, all these, if you look at these stories in the history, right? Even demons would do tapasya before they got power, right? So it gives you certain power, it gives you purity much faster, it's high intensity, right? People like me who like food, I cannot fast from all the food, so I eat no grains and beans, but whatever is acceptable, I eat that. Only one day I fast from food and grains, and this is Bhima Ekadashi. That was meant for Bhima. I could relate to him because he couldn't stay without food. So only once a year Bhima would do Ekadashi. That's the day we generally fast from water and food. So in case you missed any Ekadashi, you can make up for that on Bhima Ekadashi. It's also called Pandava Ekadashi. So the point is, kudos to you, Prayash, for being able to control your senses and maintain such a high standard, and that's great. I know you want to be a mentor to many people. You want to be a life coach, and to be in such a role, you need to have certain powers, certain abilities, and this certainly helps. Ekadashi fasting and austerities definitely help you gain that extra edge over other people. And it sharpens your intelligence, it gives you more focus, it gives you it cleanses your karma. It does a lot of, it has a lot of benefits, right? It cleanses your papa, all the negative things you've done in your life, in this life and past life. It burns all of that. So Ekadashi is a very powerful day, and the more austerity you can do, Krishna consciously speaking, whether it's fasting, chanting, kirtan, studying, speaking, Krishna conscious literatures, etc. All of that has amplified effect on your life. Um, like I said, it connects you more to Krishna. It expedites your growth in Krishna consciousness, and it gives you certain powers that are superhuman in a way.
Yeah, I get that. Like, I almost joined this group and following it, trying to follow it regularly for over a year, almost a year, and it has tremendous changed me tremendously internally. I had one question that yesterday I saw Krishna in my dream. So, does that mean anything?
Yeah, that means wonderful. Don't try to interpret it. Just appreciate that Krishna is reciprocating with you, is encouraging you. That's all.
Mhm. Okay. And one last question. Before COVID, you used to travel a lot, right? And
Mhm.
when you are traveling, it's like hard to get like sattvic foods foods without onion and garlic. So what do if you don't get that food you're looking for?
There's
Either
always
you.
fruits. There's always fruits and yogurt, dahi and things like that. That is available. So regardless of where I am, generally speaking, devotees are everywhere. So I probably know somebody or somebody knows me and they make arrangements. Or generally speaking, because I get invited to speak when I travel, they make my food arrangements, and Sarvanu tells them on this day sir is not going to eat anything other than blah blah blah, and so they make fruit salad or some kind of arrangement for me. So that works out, but again, not everybody is in that position where others can make arrangements for you. So there is always the opportunity for fruits and milk and yogurt, and finding things that are safe, Ekadashi safe, while you're traveling.
Thanks a lot, Prabhuji, for mentioning that. Thank you.
Sure. Okay. Any other questions?
Hare Krishna, sir.
Hare Krishna, Shuli.
Sir, right now you have mentioned Sharanam, Vandanam, and there were few lines that you have mentioned. What are those? How we can align with Krishna?
So there are 9 processes of bhakti that are given in Srimad Bhagavatam. So starts with Shravanam, hearing, Shravanam, Kirtanam, speaking or glorifying the Lord, Smaranam, remembering the Lord, Vandanam, worshipping the Lord, Pada Sevanam, that is what you see Lakshmi Devi, massaging the lotus feet of the Lord. So generally for us, it means, actually serving Vaishnavas, because Vaishnavas, devotees, are at the lotus feet of the Lord. So Pada Sevanam. Sakhyam, being friendly with the Lord. So that means looking out for Lord's needs, just like a friend does. So glorifying the Lord, preaching, bringing donations. So doing things that are friendly, friendship. So Sakhyam. How many did I say? So Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Vandanam, Archanam, Archanam, worshipping. Worshipping and Vandanam, Archanam, Vandanam, kind of similar. There are nuances. Don't ask me the details. I don't recall exactly. Archanam, Vandanam, Sakhyam, Padasevanam, Dasyam, and Atmanivedanam. Atmanivedanam is the last stage where, full complete surrender. It's the highest level of bhakti where everything for you, Krishna, nothing for me, all for you. Of course, Krishna takes care of you, doesn't mean you starve to death, but the mood and the mindset is the whole selfishness goes away. It's Atmanivedanam, full surrender. That's the last stage. So it starts with Shravanam. You hear about Krishna, you hear about the process, you speak the process, you remember the process, and slowly you go through the 9 processes of bhakti. Not necessarily that all of them have to be done, but Shravanam and Kirtanam are the most important of the 9 processes. Hearing Krishna Katha and chanting or speaking Krishna Katha, etc. These are the most 2. This is the primary. Everything else will follow if those 2 are constant.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Most welcome. Anything else?
Prabhuji, one thing. I was watching a YouTube video of a devotee, and he mentioned one thing that, like, when brahmachari devotees cannot travel except without preaching purposes. Is that correct?
Prayash, my ardent request to you and all the devotees, try not to watch other people's lectures, whether it's Sadguru or Sri Sri or even ISKCON devotees. You would get massively confused. I am here for you. If you have questions, watch my videos, learn from one person. Don't try to learn from multiple people. If you don't think I'm giving you enough,
No.
you can go watch somebody else, not a problem. But have one mentor, because you will hear random things. They are true. They might not be true also. But the point is, you will get confused. There are lots of rules in our scriptures, Prayash. Lots of things. For example, a sannyasi is not supposed to cross the ocean. Srila Prabhupada crossed multiple oceans to get to America. Srila Prabhupada crossed multiple oceans to get to America. It is said sannyasis should not stay in one place for more than 3 days. He did it. So the higher principle is spreading Krishna consciousness, becoming Krishna conscious first, then spreading Krishna consciousness. Bharat bhumite janma hoilo jar, janma sarthak kori koro paro upakar. Lord Chaitanya said that Bharat bhumite janma, those who are born in the land, holy land of India, janma sarthak kori. First, sarthak, make your life successful by becoming Krishna conscious yourself. Then koro paro upakar, help other people become perfect in their Krishna consciousness. That's the higher principle. Now, should brahmacharis travel? Brahmacharis should not travel. Sannyasis should do this, should not do this. There are hundreds and thousands of rules. You cannot perform all these rules in Kali Yuga. It is not possible. And yet there are certain devotees who will go out publicly and talk about these rules and rituals. You hear about it, you get confused. My ardent request, do not watch spiritual lectures from other people other than Srila Prabhupada. If you have a guru, listen to your guru's lectures, Srila Prabhupada, and if you're in Philosophy Friday group, take what I am saying. There is a reason why all of you are entrepreneurs, all of you are high-performing individuals. That's what I choose to share with. And you guys cannot live the life of a sannyasi or a brahmachari or whatever else. And you are also included in Krishna consciousness. You can be as glorious as anyone. George Harrison was one of the top singers, pop stars in the entire world. And he wanted to become a monk. Prabhupada said, no, you will do much better service to Krishna by being on stage. And he would go on stage and chant Hare Krishna and all the other songs, mundane songs, but little bit of Krishna conscious to it. But he was a devotee. And seeing him, thousands of people have become devotees. Everybody has their path. Rules and rituals, that's not spirituality. Rules and rituals is important at a certain level, but it is important to know what rules to follow under guidance. If you just take on, I'm a brahmachari, so you know what, I'm not going to travel unless it's for preaching. Oh, okay, great. Sure. Well, everybody's a brahmachari till the age of 25 when you're not married. What are you going to do? You have to go to college, you have to go to work, you have to go to internships. You're not going to travel? What are you going to do? Right? So there are lots of rituals, there's lots of rules, Prayash, and it is detrimental if you get confused with all of that and be like, oh, this is too difficult. Let me quit Krishna consciousness. I'm overwhelmed. That's what's going to happen. So I'm begging you, all of you, please don't listen to random lectures here and there. It will confuse you. When you become stronger in Krishna consciousness, then you can listen to anyone, because then you'll have a lot more knowledge base and there won't be any conflict, and you can understand what to take and what not to take and what to apply in your life. But the initial, where you are, it's called Komal Shraddha, the initial faith, right? That's the stage you should have only one person that you learn from. And let that one person be Srila Prabhupada, and whatever little bit I'm sharing with you or the people I'm bringing forward, just let it be that, because it's customized for you, for who you are. All of you have something in similarity. Know that it's nicely designed just for you. Does it help, Prayash? Do you understand?
Yeah. Thank you for caring for us all, because it is. Yeah, I know it's like hard for you to cope up with all this, but
I don't want to sound like
no.
I am it, and you shouldn't listen to anybody else. It's horrible to be in that position, but it's also detrimental for you to actually listen to multiple people and get confused. I have seen people leave Krishna consciousness, and I bleed when I see people leaving Krishna consciousness. So even at the expense of you thinking I'm a narcissistic person, let me just tell you, please have one mentor. And it doesn't have to be me. It can be anyone, but at least have one person so that you get one flavor of Krishna consciousness. There are many flavors of Krishna consciousness, right? Many people will say book distribution is the only thing, right? And some people will say, oh, chanting is the only thing, chant all day. Some people will say, oh, it's deity worship. Deity worship is the best. They're all true and they're all right. But you are gifted in a certain way. You're in a certain psychophysical body. And there are certain things that you would like to do. And such is the person you should learn from.
I understand. Thank you.
Sure. I'm being emphatic. It's not like I'm angry or anything. It's just I'm trying to make a point here because I have gone through that myself in my initial days. Seeing me as a teenager, many people would try to mentor me. I would watch many videos and get confused, and all these Mayavadi impersonal philosophers would say things. I'm like this and that, and I would cause a lot of trouble to my mentor. And then he told me just have one person, and it helped me so much to have clarity. And once I got to know the basic fundamentals of Vedic wisdom, now I can listen to anybody. I can listen to Devdutt Patnaik, I can listen to Sadhguru, I can listen to whoever nonsense, and I can understand, no, here's the nonsense part, here is the good part. And I can take that. But if you don't know, then you cannot, you see, oh, this guy has a beard. Well, everything he says must be true. But it might not be true. It might not be in Shastras. That's where I should caution you that be careful. Because even within ISKCON, there are people who can say unbonafide things, right? In India, especially, ISKCON has become very much a Hindu kind of organization. By Hindu, I don't mean a bad thing. I mean, in Hinduism, just like the confusion that is there, rituals, grandfather did it, so I do it, so you should do it, right? Grandmother did it, that's a ritual. It's nothing to do with scriptures, but because it's coming through generations, you do it, right? So like Durga Puja, for example, it was actually a political movement to get all the Bengalis together, right, against the British and whatnot, or the Mughal invaders and whatnot. And Durga Puja has become the Bengali thing, with Saraswati, Lakshmi, and all of that. So a lot of things are cultural versus spiritual, right? So we have to know, only then we can appreciate. Till we know, we should have just take clear instructions from one person. Okay, all right. I think I've made my point. Vibhuti Mataji is saying, why Krishna not helped his devotees in Russia of all the torture they suffered? Okay. So Mataji, what about, in that case, what about the Pandavas? Right? Why did Krishna not help the Pandavas? They had to go to forest and live in Agyatavas and go through so much difficulty. So that's not the process of Krishna consciousness. If there will be difficulties in a devotee's life, it is not an escape mechanism, right? But the perception of the difficulty can be reduced tremendously depending on the level of Krishna consciousness of the person, right? Haridas Thakur. So let's understand. I'll tell the story of Haridas Thakur. Let's understand who is Haridas Thakur. He is Lord Brahma. So Lord Brahma, when he stole the cowherd boys and everything, he came to Krishna, apologized. Krishna didn't say yes or no, so he didn't know what to do. He did tapasya. He says, okay, next avatar, I'm going to be born and serve Krishna. So as Haridas Thakur, Lord Brahma was born, and he was born in a Muslim family. And in a Muslim family, although he was born, he was very attracted to Lord Chaitanya, and he was chanting 192 rounds every single day. 192 rounds every single day. Now, that means pretty much 23 hours in a day he was chanting. Now, Haridas Thakur was an exalted person that Lord Chaitanya named him Namacharya. Now, the Muslims got very annoyed, as well as the Hindu Brahmins got very annoyed with Haridas Thakur. The Hindus were not liking the fact that, oh, a Muslim guy chanting Krishna's name and getting all these Hindu followers to follow them, and we are losing on our market share. And the Muslims were like, a Muslim guy, he is chanting Krishna's holy name. This is not right. So both the Hindus and the Muslims went to the Nawab and complained about Haridas Thakur. So this guy needs to be told to stop chanting. Nawab called Haridas Thakur and asked him, you're a Muslim, you're a saintly person, I can understand, but please don't do this chanting business. This is not right. You're a Muslim, stay in the religion. Haridas Thakur said, my dear king, if chanting is a fault, then you can cut me into 1,000,000 pieces, and every piece of my body will chant the holy name of Krishna. But I cannot stop chanting. It's not in my control. So, punish me as you see fit. The king was upset. And the Nawab said, okay, you're so arrogant. I'm telling you to stop chanting. You won't stop chanting? Fine. The king called 2 of his strongest men and said, take Haridas Thakur and whip him at 22 marketplaces. So back in those days, that was a very common form of punishment. Take somebody to a public place, tie him up, and whip him to death, basically. So generally speaking, uh, people would die in 3 marketplaces. 22 marketplaces, people won't survive. 3 marketplaces, they're dead. Haridas Thakur was being whipped, and Haridas Thakur, he just took the whipping and he kept on chanting the holy name of Krishna. And he kept on chanting the holy name of Krishna. And they took him to multiple marketplaces. And finally, these very strong, well-built Muslim jallads, I could call them, they were tired of whipping, but Haridas Thakur was not showing any sign of reducing his chanting. He kept on chanting the holy name of Krishna. And finally, these people, they realized he is a saintly person. And they fell at his feet. And they said, "My dear Haridas Thakur, you're a great saint. We can understand that. But kindly die. Because if you don't die, the Nawab will kill our family members. Kindly die." Haridas Thakur said, "Oh, the Nawab will kill your family members? No problem. I will die right away." And Haridas Thakur apparently died. And these guys were happy, so they took the body and threw it in the water. They came back to the king and told the king, "Okay, Haridas Thakur is dead. It's all over. He's been whipped. He survived 22 marketplaces, but eventually he died." And then, Haridas Thakur resurrected from, it's like Jesus Christ resurrected after 3 days of being crucified. So like that, Haridas Thakur resurrected from the water, from some other place where the water was flowing. He came back up and he was again chanting the holy name. And this time again, people were like, "Haridas Thakur, wow, he came back from the death." And again, the king asked Haridas Thakur to meet him. And the king said, "You're a saintly person. I don't know. If you cannot be killed, then I don't know what to do with you. So please forgive us for what we have done. And you keep doing what you're doing." And everybody was, Now, so Haridas Thakur, being such a great devotee of Krishna, chanting 192 rounds, he had to go through that process, right? So now, did he feel the pain? No. Few days later, actually, when Haridas Thakur went to Lord Chaitanya, he asked Lord Chaitanya, I was, whipped so much, but there is no mark on my back. I don't feel any pain." Lord Chaitanya took up his upper garment and showed Haridas Thakur, "Yes, because I took the pain for you." Now, what might say, why does Lord Chaitanya have to take the pain? Lord Chaitanya had marks on his back, actually. He was bleeding. He said, why does Lord Chaitanya have to take the pain? Because Haridas Thakur was praying for the 2 people who were whipping him. He was praying for the people who were whipping him. He said, "My dear Lord Chaitanya, my dear Krishna, please forgive them." Like Jesus Christ also said, like, "My dear Lord, please forgive those sinners. They don't know what they're doing." So like, of course, Jesus Christ, anyway, but Haridas Thakur was praying for these 2 people who were whipping him, that, "My dear Lord Chaitanya, please don't hurt them." So Lord Chaitanya said, "I was ready with my Sudarshan Chakra to kill them. But because you were constantly praying, I couldn't do anything to them. So what could I do? I just put myself on your back and I took the beating for you." So here is something, Mataji, you have to understand that, and now this is Haridas Thakur. So at his level, that Lord Chaitanya personally took the beating. But suffering doesn't go away just because one takes shelter of Krishna. But the perception of suffering goes away because Krishna takes away the suffering part, the difficulties we go through, and as we go through the difficulties, we grow through life. That's what happens. But the difficulties don't go away. So the Russian devotees, yes, they might have gone through suffering, but guess what? They'll definitely get Krishna's lotus feet. They'll definitely go back to Krishna's lotus feet. Right? And that's the ultimate goal of our life. So mercy is always there. The mercy is a remembrance of Krishna there. If the remembrance of Krishna is there, then everything is okay. Because if we think of Krishna at the time of death, we go back to Krishna. Does it help, Vibhuti Mataji? There's an important principle to understand. I'm glad you asked this question. I don't know if you are in the call anymore. Okay, anyway. Akshat has a question. It says, can I fast as I am COVID positive? Doctor advised me to eat even after isolation period. Akshat, I'm so sorry to hear about your COVID situation, but please don't fast. If doctor has said to eat, please eat. Don't fast. Health first. Then, when you're healthy, do all the uh, sense control and tapasya and things like that. When you're not healthy, do not do it. Prabhupada always said health first. When you're sick, if you're not able to chant, that is also okay. First, get your body back in order, then you can work on taking care of spiritual duties. Saikat Sahu is asking, Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I like Madhav. My brother-in-law's love child Krishna. My brother-in-law loves child Krishna. Okay, that's a totally different meaning. Uh, what is the difference between these two kinds of worship? Well, Krishna, there are 5 primary rasas or flavors of relationship with Krishna. Uh, it starts with Dasya rasa, like Hanuman to Lord Ramachandra, right? So Dasya rasa, where it's a servitude. You serve the Lord as his personal servant. Then comes Sakya rasa, where is friendship, where you serve the Lord as a friend. You're holding Krishna. Hey, Krishna, what's up? That kind of friendship, like the Gopas have with the Lord. Then comes Vatsalya rasa. Am I missing something? Sorry. The bottom one is Aishwarya rasa. Aishwarya Bhav is the cows, the throne, the flute, the peacocks, the kind of rasa they have with Krishna is wow. Krishna is awesome. Krishna is amazing. It's the wow factor. There is no conversation or something. It is just wow. God is great, right? That's Aishwarya Bhav. Then comes Dasya, as I explained. Then Sakya, friendship. Then comes Vatsalya, that is parent-child relationship, seeing Krishna as your child, right? Vatsalya Bhav. So what you're mentioning about your relative. So seeing Laddu Gopal, a lot of North Indians worship Laddu Gopal. So little Gopal holding a laddu, or Makhan Chor, right? So there you're actually looking at Krishna as your own child and taking care of him and feeding him and cleaning him and taking, you feel like you're a mother or a father of Krishna, right? That's another mood. And the highest mood, the most intimate, I shouldn't say highest or lowest. It's not highest, lowest. It's more intimate. The most intimate mood is that of Madhurya Rasa, which is Radharani gopis with Krishna, the conjugal rasa, where you see Krishna as a lover, right? And your exchange with Krishna is in that mood. So our disciplic succession, Brahma Madhava Gauriya Sampradaya, and with Lord Chaitanya, which we are in, is actually in that mood. So Lord Chaitanya came in the mood of Srimati Radharani. Although he's Krishna, he came in the mood of Srimati Radharani to experience that conjugal loving pastime of Krishna. Now this is way beyond syllabus, but I'm still sharing a little bit so that we can understand. So different disciplics, with the 4 disciplic successions we have, each disciplic succession has a different mood. So Nimbarka Acharya's disciplic succession has a certain mood. The 4 Kumaras, Chatush Kumaras, their disciplic succession has a certain mood. So there is Vatsalya Bhav in one of them. Laddu Gopal, they are called, I think that is Nimbarka Acharya's. Pushti Margis, right? Then there are the 4 Kumaras. There's Rudra Sampradaya, Lord Shiva's Sampradaya. So there's Sri Sampradaya, the awe and reverence. You see Tirupati and all the South Indian temples. There's a huge awe and reverence, massive rituals, Rath Yatra, diamond, gold. I mean, it is jaw-dropping Vaikuntha mood, right? You see Varadaraj Swami, you see Tirupati Balaji, you see Guruvayur temple, all these South Indian temples, very, very awe and reverence. So their mood is Aishwarya Bhav because Lakshmi Devi is there. They're coming in the mood of Lakshmi Devi. Lakshmi Devi is always, she's the queen of Vaikuntha, massaging the Lord's lotus feet, so that's the mood. So every disciplic succession has a different mood. Our mood is Gopi Bhartar Padakamalar Das Dasanu Das. That following in the footsteps of the gopis, of loving Krishna as a lover. Now, many of us are in the male body. How does it work? We don't have to worry about it right now. Right now, chant Hare Krishna. But as we realize, as we get purified more and more, that Prakriti nature of us will be there, and we'll realize who we are in relation to Krishna, and then those kinds of feelings will come later on. Krishna prema, right? So that's later. So don't worry about that. For now, whatever body you're in, whatever situation you're in, you are who you are. But the point is, there are different rasas of loving Krishna, and we all have our own constitutional rasa of loving Krishna in one of those categories. And someday we'll realize it. It will be revealed to us as we keep chanting Hare. It will be revealed to us if we have Vatsalya Bhav, or if we have conjugal Bhav, or Aishwarya Bhav, or who we are in the spiritual world. All of those details will be revealed to us, just like all our disciplic succession, except for Prabhupada. Prabhupada never revealed it, but other disciplic succession members have shared who they are, Manjari or Gopi, in the spiritual world. What is the color of their sari? What is the service to Krishna? Who are they serving under? Like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he serves under Ananga Manjari, right? And Rupa Manjari, Ananga Manjari is Radharani's sister. And Rupa Manjari works directly under Ananga Manjari, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur works under Rupa Manjari. Who's Rupa Manjari? Rupa Manjari is Rupa Goswami, direct disciple of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So like that, actually these personalities are exalted, who are at the Guru Shishya Parampara. But through their purification, they've come to know their spiritual form. And they've written it down that this is who I am in the spiritual world. So for us also, Krishna willing, as we get purified, we will also be revealed. This is who you are in the spiritual world. This is your service to Krishna, right? And we are all very unique personalities, right? Anyway, answered a short question in a long way, but the point is there are varieties of ways of loving Krishna, and each person have their flavor of relationship. Okay. Any other questions? 3 minutes we have.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I have one question. Like last Philosophy Friday, you have told that there are 3 levels of devotees: neophyte, Madhyamadhikari, and Uttamadhikari.
Mm-hmm.
So, like Prabhuji, I have a confusion regarding it. Like during my college time, I used to do DT worship. 2 years I have done the DT worship. And after that, I left everything like DT worship and this, and only sitting down chanting and reading Bhagavad and all. So what will be my level? I'm not asking like just I'm asking for.
So in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu and Nectar of Devotion, it is mentioned that first initiation is Kanishtadhikari, second initiation or Brahman initiation is Madhyamadhikari, and of course there is Sannyas initiation. So there are, it's according to the initiation levels. Having said that, even if you're not initiated, one might be in certain category. So the Komal Shraddha that I talked about is the Kanishtadhikari, the beginner level. So what happens at that level is you get to see Krishna in the temple only, but the perception of Krishna is everywhere, in everyone's heart, in every atom of the universe. That perception isn't very clear, right? So for self-assessment, I'm not going to tell you your Kanishtadhikari or Madhyama or Uttama. I don't know. I'm not Krishna. But you can do self-assessment. Am I there yet? A Madhyama Adhikari is a person who can distinguish between the envious and the non-envious. That means when you're preaching, a Madhyama Adhikari is a preacher. Somebody who can see this person is envious towards Krishna might as well not talk about Krishna consciousness. And this person is innocent and is open-minded, and we can share. And protecting those they are taking care of in the preaching, from those who are envious. And they can distinguish between good and bad. Uttama Adhikari, they don't distinguish between good and bad. They're absolutely on the highest platform, right? Where they're just seeing everybody is serving Krishna in some way or form in Krishna's Leela, right? They see the world in a completely different way, which we cannot even fathom. So Jara Bharat's story, if you remember that one, Jara Bharat, that's the Uttamadhikari level, the way somebody sees the world, that I am the most fallen, everybody is serving Krishna, and, tears in eyes, always in ecstasy, always in madness, pretty much madness and Krishna consciousness. So don't worry about that. I don't think most of us are there. So ideally speaking, we're probably we are in the beginner stage. So that even though you have done DT worship, but that's because you were in a voice, you were in a hostel, and that's a need. And the standards are not the same as temple. In a temple, you would have to be Brahmana initiated to go on the altar and do DT worship. Anyway, we're talking about something that's beyond the scope. Does that help, Anand Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you.
Self-assessment. I'm not judging you.
So Nectar means devotion is the preferred book for this, right, Prabhu?
Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Nectar of Devotion, yes.
Yes, Prabhu. Okay, thank you.
It's given there. The definitions are given there. Uttamadhikari, Kanishtadhikari, Madhyamadhikari. Okay, any other questions? All right. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Hare Krishna, everyone. Have a good night.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.